Hey guys, welcome to today's video where we're going to be discussing three NFL pass rushers that deserve a lot more respect. So these are basically three NFL players, edge defenders, pass rushers that are good at getting to the quarterback that don't really get talked about by the media. If you're new around here, please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow.
And I hope you enjoy the video.
So before we start talking about my three pass rushers that are underrated, I'm going to talk about the elite level of pass rushers that I think almost everyone in the NFL community, NFL fans, even NFL teams would agree are the elite guys. And those guys are like Khalil Mack, J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, Danielle Hunter, guys like that, guys who rack up a lot of sacks. I mean, if you look at what J.J. Watt's able to do, he averages 13.7 sacks per 16 games. That isn't per season because he gets injured a lot, but per 16 games, J.J. Watt puts up nearly 14 sacks. Aaron Donald puts up nearly 12.3 sacks per 16 games. Von Miller puts up 12.6 sacks too. Danielle Hunter averages 11.2 sacks, and Khalil Mack actually averages 10.5 sacks per 16 games. Then there's that second level of guys. There's like the Everson Griffins of the world, the Geno Atkinses of the world, the DeMarcus Lawrences of the world, who surprisingly averages 7.8 sacks per 16 games, even though he's considered as one of the better edge rushers in the NFL. And in fact, my three players that I'm going to be talking about in today's video all average more sacks per 16 games than Everson Griffin, Geno Atkins, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Calais Campbell. So let's start with the first guy. I'm going to talk about Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones is a three-time Pro Bowler, two-time first-team All-Pro member, and he averages 12.9 sacks per 16 games. He was also a member of the 2010s All-Decade team. So I think Chandler Jones should be put in that elite level of players. I think Arizona fans probably have him there, but at the end of the day, Jones just doesn't get a lot of media attention. I mean, he's second among average players in forced fumbles, he's 14th among average players in tackles for loss, and he's fourth among active players in sacks. Jones had the 47th highest PFF player grade at an 86.0 PFF player grade last season. Although that doesn't sound high, he did have 19 sacks. Yeah, he was only a half sack back from Shaquille Barrett, who ended up finishing the season with the most sacks in the NFL at 19.5 sacks. Not only did Chandler Jones make the Pro Bowl last year, but he was a first-team All-Pro member. And although he's heading into his ninth season, he's still one of the most fearless, most destructive, and most dominant pass rushers in the NFL. He constantly gets to the quarterback, and each of the past 5 seasons, he's had over 11 sacks. In 2019, he had 19 sacks, right? In 2018, he had 13 sacks. In 2017, he led the NFL with 17 sacks. In 2016, he had 11 sacks. And in 2015, he had 12.5 sacks. And you may just say, yep, I'm just talking about sacks. And at the end of the day, I am. But as I said, he's also 14th among active players in tackles for loss. That's pretty high. And he's second among active players in forced fumbles. This guy gets to the quarterback. He's a game breaker, and he should be put up there with guys like Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt, among the great guys who get to the quarterback, the great guys who are disruptors in this game. As an outside linebacker, he's in there with Von Miller too. So look out for Chandler Jones. I think he deserves a lot more respect than he gets, and maybe it's because he plays in Arizona, but at the end of the day, Chandler Jones is definitely among the game's best. Now let's go to another guy who is very underrated. I don't know if he's elite. I don't think he's in that elite level, but he's definitely not talked about enough, and that guy's Cameron Jordan. Cameron Jordan, defensive end for the New Orleans Saints. He's been there for a while. He's never missed a game in his career. And for one of your star pass rushers, that's really important. If you look at what Houston's had to deal with J.J. Watt, he's missed a lot of time due to injury. And in fact, Cameron Jordan's never missed a game in his career. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler, 1-time first-team All-Pro member back in 2017, where he had 13 sacks. He was a member of the 2010s All-Decade team, and he has averaged 9.67 sacks per 16 games. That's just shy of what Khalil Mack averages per 16 games, so I think he's a borderline elite kind of player. He ranks 10th most among active players in sacks, with more sacks than guys like Robert Quinn, JPP, Geno Atkins, and Everson Griffin. All those guys may not seem like big, like superstar players, but they're all really big sack guys if you look at the stats. He also ranks 11th among players in tackles for loss. When I'm ranking these players, I'm talking about how disruptive are they, how many times do they get to the quarterback, and how many tackles for loss do they have. According to PFF, in fact, Cameron Jordan earned an 87.6 PFF player grade, which was actually higher than Chandler Jones last year, and it was also higher than pass rushers like Khalil Mack, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Jadeveon Clowney. Overall, Cameron Jordan just needs more respect. In fact, I actually wrote an article about this for theupdog.com. What's theupdog.com, you ask? Well, in fact, theupdog.com is a sports article website where anyone under the age of 22 can go write about whatever they want in the sports world. It's a place where you can share your views on the sports world, and it's a place where a lot of people from all over the country go and write about sports. If y'all are interested in, one, reading some of the articles on the website, they're very, very interesting. We're coming out with new content daily, so I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. Secondly, if any of you guys are under 22 and are interested in sports writing, then you can go sign up on the updog.com free. You can write immediately, you can write as much or as little as you want, and there's absolutely no commitment. So you might as well go try it out. It's a good thing to put on a resume, and once again, it's free, and you can write as much or as little as you want. As I said, I'll leave a link to that in the description down below, but let's get back to the video. So as I was saying, Cameron Jordan, one of the great pass rushers, and he's super underrated. He needs more respect. He deserves more respect. And maybe it's because he plays in New Orleans and he's been sitting under Drew Brees' spotlight for a very long time. Cameron Jordan is one of the NFL's premier pass rushers, and although it's a little bit debatable if he's in the class of the Aaron Donalds of the world or the Khalil Macks of the world, he's still a really good pass rusher, and he's definitely above guys like DeMarcus Lawrence or Everson Griffin, or maybe even a guy that can get pressure from the inside like Geno Atkins. At the end of the day, I think it goes without saying that Cameron Jordan's a really good player, and I think he should deserve more respect from the national media. Now let's move on to my third pass rusher, who, although might not be a household name, is a very, very, very good player. So that's going to be Carlos Dunlap. So Dunlap is a two-time Pro Bowler, which is actually kind of disrespectful. This man has been really, really good for a really, really long time, and he's super consistent. If you look at what he's done over the past few seasons, in fact, he's never had more than 9 sacks, and he's never had less than 7.5 sacks in the past 4 years. In 2015, that was one of his Pro Bowl seasons. He had 13.5 sacks, so he is capable of big sack numbers. But at the end of the day, he's a 7.5, 8 sack, 9 sack guy, and he does it year in and year out at a high level too. Also, he plays next to Geno Atkins, and although that might inflate his numbers a little bit, he's still been really good for a really long time, and he just doesn't get enough attention. In fact, he's 11th in sacks among active players, and he's 15th among active players in total tackles for loss. Plus, he's 9th among active players in fumbles forced, and Dunlap actually had the 42nd highest PFF player grade with an 89.7 PFF player grade in 2019. That PFF player grade is higher than Cameron Jordan's, and it's also higher than Chandler Jones's. Overall, Dunlap, great player. Yes, he only averages 8.81 sacks per 16 games, but anytime you're averaging 8, 9, 10 sacks per 16 games or per season, you're doing really well. Dunlap is a dominant defensive end. He really gets to the quarterback, and him and Atkins lead one of the better and most underrated defensive lines in Cincinnati. They did add DJ Reader this offseason, and that's only going to help Dunlap's production going forward. Overall, I think Dunlap is a really good player, but at the end of the day, so is Chandler Jones, and so is Cameron Jordan. There are a lot of good pass rushers in this league, and at the end of the day, I think Dunlap, Cameron Jordan, and Chandler Jones are 3 guys that are able to get to the quarterback and are just not talked about enough.
Now that you've reached the end of my video, I want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe as it helps my channel out, and check out my other videos on my channel. Also, you can follow my Instagram, the link is in the description down below, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, see ya.